Okay, Ella M. Jones, ELLAM, middle initial, JONES.
Excellent. So, where do you live, and have you always lived here?
I live in the most northern part of Ferguson. I've been here 40 years, and I just love it.
So, where did you live before Ferguson?
Before Ferguson, New Orleans.
Anywhere else that you lived?
No, just New Orleans.
Awesome. Quick comparison. What's the difference between New Orleans and Ferguson, St. Louis area?
Well, the big difference, it's not a party town. I didn't want to live in a party town. Didn't want my daughter to be raised in a party town. So it's quiet here, slow pace, compared to New Orleans, which is fast paced.
So what would you miss most if you had to leave Ferguson tomorrow?
If I had to leave Ferguson tomorrow, I would miss the people. It is the people. We have some very good people. It's a diverse town. It's just the people. And I would miss my home. I love my home. And I love the neighborhood.
So what is your role in Ferguson?
My role in Ferguson is mayor. I was elected June the 2nd as mayor of Ferguson, and the position is part-time. However, it's really full-time when you're interacting with people. The charter said the mayor does not have any administrative duties, and the mayor serves as the chairperson of all meetings for the city. But the people don't know that. They call you for everything. They expect you to do everything. And it's a lot. It's challenging, but yet it is rewarding because the people are excited. The people have hope, and they're looking to move this city forward.
So, you're born in New Orleans. You moved here, but what was kind of like your career path to get to feel comfortable and confident to run for mayor of the town?
Well, I graduated from the University of Missouri St. Louis with a degree in chemistry. That's something I had left over from high school. I got married and we were up here, and I went to college, and I wanted to be a chemist. I really wanted to be a pharmacist, but when I started back into college, I turned around and, hey, I have a kid that needs to go to college. So I just took the degree in chemistry and started paying for her education for college.
Just one kid, or you have
one is enough. Just the one daughter.
So does your daughter still live in Ferguson?
No, her job moved her to Texas.
So, I guess in one or two words, how would you describe your 2020, and then why did you choose those one or two words?
My 2020, exciting, rewarding, challenging, hopeful, destination, journey.
So why would you choose those words? Those are beautiful words, but why? What does that mean to you?
Because they are the path of life. You know, you have to have hope in order to get up every day, and you start your day off as a journey. And you may come to your destination at the end of the day, and you may not come to your destination, but you got to continue to keep moving. Exciting. Every time I wake up, it's a brand new day, so that's exciting. And challenging because life is not easy. And I realized that I'm a boss in my own world. So everyone, seemed to look at it like, oh, okay. So that's why I say challenging.
So describe the moment COVID-19 became real to you.
It became real to me when it traveled across the pond and how it spread so fast. Then I started going back to my biology days and looking at viruses and mutation and how it hops from one host to another host. It was real. And I think everybody don't understand that it's going to take a while for this virus to die out until a vaccine is made. And everybody talking about the curve, but they don't know once you get up one side of the curve, you may go down, but you may not go all the way down. That curve can spike again. So everyone was just looking at the bell-shaped curve, but they failed to realize that it is wavy.
So what was going on, emotionally for you when you're watching and it was becoming real? What were you feeling in those as you watched it jump upon you?
It was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking every day to sit and listen to the news and listen to how many people have perished from this virus, how the president didn't take it serious. He thought it was a hoax because of the Democratic Party. And when he really took it serious, it was too late. Too many people have perished. And now we've got to try to restart this economy. And you can't restart it simply because this virus has to run its course.
So how has your daily life changed? How did it change at first?
My daily life changed because I didn't go out and interact with a lot of people like I usually would do because I'm a social butterfly. And when people come over to my home, they're required to wear a mask. You can't come in my home unless you put a mask on. Limit the amount of people I be around, and I'm very selected with the group I go around.
So, how has that affected you emotionally? You're such an outgoing person.
One day I tried to stay at home. It really got to me. I'm like, I don't like staying at home. I don't. I'm a social person, always out and about. So I stayed at home one day and I cleaned the house. And I stayed home the second day and I cleaned what I had already cleaned. And I'm like, no, I've got to find a way to continue to live my life and not be stuck inside. So that's when I decided I wear a mask everywhere I go, gloves, everything to keep me healthy and just continue my life.
So what kind of new habits and routines have you adopted since the pandemic started?
Oh, new habits. Watching who I interact with and who I'm around. I always have kept a clean house. At least the housekeeper did. So clean house, disinfect all the time. So that's not a new regimen because that's something that has always been a part of the way I live and the way I keep house. Just being cautious about who I interact with.
So now that we're about 120 days into this thing, what's your life like now? What's your daily life like?
My daily life now is getting up in the morning, exercise. I mainly talk to my doctor about once a month. I changed my diet. Since I, was running for mayor and had to be out, she changed my diet and I changed my diet. And just being cautious.
So what was that like campaigning for election during a pandemic?
Well, you had to be extra careful. You couldn't knock doors. So you had to come up with a better way. And what I did, I would get in my truck and I'll just ride the streets and I see people and I wave at them and they'll be sitting on their porch and I'll be standing in the street and I'll just be animated and just talking to them. So I enjoyed it, but I didn't allow the pandemic to stop me because I found another way. And my social media team, they were really excellent.
So, how long have you been part of political life? I mean, what brought you into politics to begin with?
What got me into politics, my husband used to go to a lot of Democratic meetings and stuff, and he used to drag me with him. He passed away, and I just continued to go into the meetings and stuff. And then in 2014, the Michael Brown fatal police shooting happened, and that's when I decided I was going to run for office.
What was that like? I mean, I think most people definitely had that on it was national news and people were following it. What was it like here in Ferguson when all that stuff was going on with the Michael Brown shooting?
It was scary. It was heartbreaking. Uh, it was a time of dis-ease. People were trying to figure out what to do, how to do it, how can we make people feel more welcoming living here. Some people were in denial that racism wasn't alive and well in Ferguson, and it was. Some people started conversations trying to figure out how they can change or make this a better place for everyone. So it was an awakening, and people, it will never be the same. It will never go back. That's why I tell people we have to always go forward, because you don't want to go back. There's nothing back there for you.
So what has happened from the time you moved here till Michael Brown? What was life like in Ferguson in those decades that you were here? And then what's happened since?
Life here was different. My daughter, Canfield Green, we lived on the other side of Ferguson in Northland Hills. And my daughter would get on her bike, ride over to Canfield Green, that's where her piano teacher was living, and she'd go to piano lessons. After that, she'd play with the kids over in Canfield Green and come back home before nightfall. Different. It's different now. And we used to have a record store, Peaches, on the corner of West Florissant and Chambers. And on Friday night, you could go out there and they'll spin records, and people would, stand in their car and listen to the records. And it was good. The parks, they were always out in the parks. During the summer months, we used to have movies in January Wabash Park. And it was a different life then. It was a different life then.
So fast forward to the year of the Michael Brown shooting, before the shooting, what had changed? What was life like then?
For me, my life was different because, I was an entrepreneur and I always went one way out to subdivision. I always hated toward 270, didn't go back on the other side of the city that much. And when I would go down West Florissant, I used to like, God, what happened? What happened? On West Florissant, we used to have a place called the Flaming Pit. Very fine dining. It was a good place to eat. Then we had a Ponderosa on West Florissant. It was just different. Most of the business, they just moved out.
So the moment of the Michael Brown shooting, when did you? What was your reaction to the Michael Brown shooting, and what was going on with the national reaction? People coming in?
I was very upset. Simply because this is my personal opinion. I don't know what happened. I don't know how it happened. I don't think a life should have been taken from it. And the fact that that young kid laid in the street for almost 4 hours, that upset me. No mother wants to see her child like that. Even in the George Floyd incident, no mother wants to see her child like that. I don't care if that child is the worst child in the world. And people in society may say any manner about that child, but that's your child. You brought that child in the world, and you don't want to see your child like that. So that was the most upsetting part for me in both instances.
So what was it like to see the George Floyd incident unfold? I mean, having been in the epicenter of the Michael Brown shooting.
It was deja vu. The violence, the looting, even when I looked at the fact that the police, his mannerism, the way he held his knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, it was like, oh, this is something I do all the time. I don't care. He had his hand in his pocket and looking afar off, like, this is not a human I'm dealing with. And that was disturbing.
So how did the Ferguson community, how has it responded to the George Floyd incident?
Well, we had a peaceful protest, and after that, somehow it went violent. The peaceful protesters, I believe, left, and the ones who wanted to create a disturbance came on that night. They broke out the windows of the police department. They broke out the windows of some of the businesses. But one thing I have no problems with peaceful protesting. Nonviolent is when you become violent. I have a problem with that simply because when you destroy someone else's property that they work hard for and they working hard to maintain it, you destroy their property, and then they employed people, and those people don't have a place to work, to earn money, to sustain their families. I got a problem with that.
So, I mean, the George Floyd incident kind of brought Black Lives Matter movement back up to the front and center, conversation racial injustice. But the Michael Brown shooting kind of was the genesis of what we now call Black Lives Matter. What's the dynamic between those who are local versus those who are national? How does this all feed to each other?
To me, it's feeding through each other because Ferguson is considered as ground zero, and they say Black Lives Matter. This is where Black Lives Matter. This is where it started. However, it took on its own life. It built up momentum. And by the time it got to George Floyd's event, it not only became a matter of African Americans seeking justice when there is injustice, but you had Indians, you had Caucasians, you had everybody from every different culture, every different ethnic group, walk of life coming together saying we will not tolerate the injustice that is being done to Black and brown people. That made the difference. It became universal.
So timeline-wise, I mean, your election was right in the middle of all the George Floyd stuff, right?
No, it was a couple of weeks before the election.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a couple of weeks before the election.
So it happened, but you're still campaigning.
I'm still campaigning.
What were you doing? How do you respond? How do you navigate something like that where you're trying to get an office and this erupts?
Well, people came to me and say, "Do you really want to be mayor?" We have to deal with all of this aftermath. Yeah, simply because it wasn't the people who lived in Ferguson. Because that Sunday morning, the people of Ferguson got up. Some was out here 5 o'clock in the morning, cleaning up the debris. So it wasn't the people of Ferguson. And the people of Ferguson are wondering why. Why do we have to go through this again? Every time an injustice is done, people are going to come back here and make this ground zero again.
Almost like re-injuring the wound.
Right.
Wow. So, how do you feel about your daily life now? I mean, you've gotten through all that stuff. There's a lot of work ahead, but what's your daily life like today?
My daily life, like what it's like today, is super jam-packed. Super jam-packed. I thought I liked being busy. It is super jam packed. People will start calling me 6 a.m. in the morning. So I turn my ringer off. I don't answer the phone. And they will call me into midnight if I allow it. So I turn my phone off at 10 o'clock so I can have some time for myself. But people are looking for solutions. And like I tell them, the only way we could get some solution is we have to start talking to one another, be connected to one another, and find the solutions together. It is not isolation, it's collaboration.
So what has been your biggest challenge throughout the pandemic?
My biggest challenge throughout the pandemic is getting people to believe that it's real, that this is real.
And how does that compare to any other big challenge you had in your life, this pandemic?
It's huge. It's huge. I would rate it a 2. The number one challenge I had in my life is when my husband passed away. Okay, and this is up there near that.
So as you think about 2 years from now, what do you think your daily life's going to feel like 2 years from now?
Well, 2 years from now, hopefully the people are working better together. And that's not because of the report of Better Together, but working better together. We have more stabilized neighborhoods and the crime is on a down tick.
So what is your administration's plan right now in terms of to get to that point?
Well, I've been in office 37 days and we got to sit down and talk about it. We have to sit down and talk about it. But I think all of us will be on the same page when we know that we have to keep people safe. That was our number one priority. Make certain we have enough masks and people are really practicing and adhering to social distances. Number one priority, keeping people safe. Number 2, have the basic needs that they need. A lot of people are out of work now. A lot of people are being furloughed. So working with the Urban League to make certain that people have the food, the necessary food for their families. And hopefully the government will pass another unemployment bill. So
in the challenges that you face here in your community and your work, your part-time, full-time job, what excites you about this?
What excites me the most about this is when I walk and I'm going different places and people say, "Are you Ella Jones? Are you the new mayor of Ferguson?" I say, "Yes, I am." And it's just strange. My sister passed the day after I was elected, and I had to get a flight out of town real fast. And it was about...
Your sister passed?
My sister passed the day after I was elected. I got the call about 6 o'clock in the morning. I was doing a show, a local TV show, and I asked them to hold on. And when all the phones in my house began to ring, I just knew it. And
was it expected, or was it unexpected?
Yeah, it was expected because she had cancer, and I had been going to see her just about every other week. That's a lot. Campaigning and going to take care of my sister.
Where did she live?
In New Orleans.
You live in New Orleans.
Yeah, and I would fly to Dallas. My daughter would drive me to New Orleans. We'd stay there a couple of days to give my nieces a rest. We'll drive back to Dallas, and I'll fly back to St. Louis.
And campaign.
And campaign.
Wow.
I did it.
You did it.
You just have to do what you have to do. That's why I don't believe in the impossible. I believe all things are possible. And I don't believe in no. No means, to me, next. So when people tell me no, I say next. So.
So, As you think about the next 5 years,
Hmm.
what one or two words come to your mind about the next 5 years from now?
Next 5 years from now, one word comes to mind: continue. It's not over. You still have to be on this journey. It's to continue.
So, I know I've asked you a lot of questions, and I went in deeper because of your roles and all that stuff, but is there a question or a topic I haven't covered that you think I should?
No, you're doing good. What I like most about being the mayor is I have more young people from the ages of 18 on up and say, Mayor Jones, I want to be a part of the government. I want to learn. So my thing is right now creating a space for them, a junior council. I had quite a few young people want to be involved in the comprehensive plan, even though we're just about at the end of it. And the rebranding of Ferguson, a lot of young people want to be a part of that. So creating space for them. And I'm excited because they are our future. And I tell people all the time, I'm not going to do this the rest of my life, but I do want someone, I want to pour into someone else that will be able to take my place.
Mm. So, for those folks who've never been to Ferguson, what do you want them to know about Ferguson, Missouri? What's the one thing that you like? I want them to, or the things that you want them to know.
I want them to know that Ferguson is a great place to raise your children. It's a great place to work, and it's a great place to play.
Awesome. So, this is going to be a documentary that goes up on the internet. It's going to be viewed somewhere. We don't know when. We don't know where. It might be years from now. It might be miles from now. It might be countries away. But someone's watching you right now talk. And so this is your chance to kind of put a message into a time capsule. What's the message that you would want them to discover as they listen to you right now? What's that message?
I want them to discover when they open that time capsule, I want them to know that you don't give up no matter what comes your way. You have to have bounce back ability, resiliency, and you just have to keep going. You don't stop. Don't stop.
You mentioned resiliency, and that's the one thing I wanted before I turn this off. Is like, what does it take? What does it take to be resilient?
The willpower. Knowing that the vision is greater than what you see, and being ready to be focused on that vision. And once you get focused, everything else doesn't matter.
How do you as a leader convey that to the folks that you are helping lead and serve?
By working with them, empowering people, let them know it's okay to fail. Failure is never fatal. And just changing that mindset, that narrative that they hear, oh, you're gonna fail, you can't do it. No, Failure is never fatal. And if you fail, you ask yourself, what have I learned? And how can I apply what I have learned to the next situation?
I see why you got elected.
Yeah.
Anything else before I hit stop?
No, that's it. I thank you for the opportunity to share.
Absolutely. And I